Hello and welcome back to the new season. We have a match preview behind enemy lines special. You'll see I'm not on my own. I'm sure he's as excited about the new season as we are. Do you want to give yourself an intro and where we can find all your wonderful, wonderful stuff?
Yeah, how excited am I about the new season, or am I as excited about you? Well, I haven't got to watch a team managed by Valerien Ismael, so maybe a touch more excited. But those kind of comments, the sort of thing that's going to come back to bite me on the ass as we inevitably get turned over in Val's revenge on the opening day. That script is almost pretty much written, I would suggest, to be honest with you. Chris Hall from Albion Analysis. Just get our pod wherever you get your pods, and follow us on X at Albion Analysis, or if you indeed want to give me some stick because I make fun of Valerien Ismael and then he beats us, at CJ Hall 83 is the place for personal grief.
Wonderful. I would actually recommend, genuinely, not just West Brom content. I think the stuff that you put out is great. So to connect, I think some of it's really insightful. But we'll crack on. So Ryan Mason is the new man in charge down at the Hawthorns. Thoughts on the appointment?
We don't know. I mean, look, it's a total rookie manager. He speaks very well, which is always nice, but we can all talk a good game. I'm sure. Well, maybe I couldn't during the course of this podcast make it sound like I know what I'm talking about, but maybe some people out there will think that I know what I'm talking about, but I couldn't manage a football team. So there is a gap between talking a good game and managing one. That's not me saying I don't think Ryan Mason can do that. It's me saying I don't know, because other than a couple of brief stints in charge of Tottenham, we've got very little to go by. Pre-season has been really, really up and down. From the games that we've been able to see, the ones that have been either televised or we've been allowed to go and see in person. I mean, Kiev was a sort of a lackluster early pre-season friendly, which you kind of expect. But Lincoln and Blackpool were both pretty disastrous. Blackpool, we were 2 down early on, and Lincoln, we were 2 down inside 2.5 minutes. So we've had a bit of a, and that worries me about the weekend, because Val teams are known for being set up to start games very, very quickly, coming out the blocks, and we've started every preseason friendly, from what I can see, relatively slowly, because even when we won at the weekend against Rayo Vallecano, it took us about 20 minutes to get a real foothold in the game, although we weren't really under any threat whilst we sort of got that foothold. But we ceded a lot of possession early doors, and sort of struggled from that perspective. But then that ended up being a really, really good performance, which kind of, it's the hope that kills you, has kind of gone and put the hope back into us that this could be something special under Ryan Mason, and all he needed was time. You just don't know with a rookie manager. You could have somebody who's just totally and utterly not up to the job, and how many times have we seen that? But then on the other hand, you look at examples like people like Kieran McKenna, Chris Davis. I know they came in League One with big teams, but coming in first time jobs, and Davis, obviously a fairly obvious parallel to draw because he came from Tottenham. Maybe we could have one of those. Maybe we've got a Enzo Maresca, a Carlos Corberán being another example of a guy who hasn't had a lot of jobs. But I mean, on the other side of it, maybe we've got a Wayne Rooney. Who knows? we honestly, we don't know at this point. I don't think we've got a Rooney. I think he's a bit more professional than that. But you take my point that it's
absolutely
it's virtually impossible. And I mean, we did our 1 to 24s earlier in the week, we put the Championship preview show out today. So that's possibly the one that I'd recommend when you see where you are in the 1 to 24 down, if that helps. But I don't think you're going to love where you are. But that's the one I'd maybe recommend your listeners having a listen to, because we talk about the wider Championship and where we see teams and everything like that. And it was really hard to place us, even being as close to the project and the club as we are as fans, and me as a former employee of the club. Like, it's still really hard to know what to expect from this season, because there's a big rebuild going on around behind the scenes. We're trying to adhere to PSR, and we've got a rookie manager who we honestly don't know what to expect. And I think there's a sort of real feeling between the fans that this could either be something really special or something really terrible. I tend to actually err on the side of caution and be somewhere in the middle, and think that that this will be a bit of a rebuild, that Ryan Mason will need a bit of a bedding in period, and then we'll probably just about get it a bit more right towards the end of the season. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended this season fairly mid-table, but a name on a lot of people's lips as one to watch for next season.
Yeah, I get that. In terms of style of football, then, has he shown anything so far? Is it going to be a playing out from the back in the sense of? I think one of my favourite managers to watch is Russell Martin, and he absolutely drives me potty. Are we going to see that from you guys?
It is going to be playing out from the back, but it's not going to be Russell Martin levels of it. No,
tremendous. Good.
Basically, we were talking about this on this week's main pod, that this weekend could be one of the most harem-scarum games that you're ever going to see, because we scored 2 out of our 3 goals were from high presses on the weekend. He's very high pressy. He wants a lot of energy. He wants, when the wide players have got the ball, he wants a lot of players in the box. He encourages his fullbacks to get in the box, which, from what I recall from 3 or 4 months of Val, is exactly what you get from Val. So I think what we could see is a lot of high pressing, but also both teams getting themselves into a lot of bother if that high press gets broken.
Yeah.
But also potentially both goalkeepers having a horrible day where they have to play out with their feet, but they don't get a lot of time to do so. And I think we could see a lot of players in the box. But again, if you clear that, potentially not a lot of cover left on the other side. I wouldn't. Let's be honest, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to end 0-0. Now I've said this, but I'd be leaning, if you were on your if you were looking at your ACCA, I'd be leaning more towards over 2.5 than under 2.5. Let's put it that way.
You've got me excited, Chris. I'm excited for the game now. In terms of your new signings, is there anyone that's standing out? Anybody that you think this season's going to come through the youth, or anyone we probably won't know of necessarily at Rovers, but we should be watching out for?
Hegerber's the one that's exciting people. He's a new centre forward from SK Brann, Norwegian, youngish lad. I think he's 23, but he's come over having scored quite a lot of goals there, and I don't know whether the plan was necessarily to have him in the side from the off. We'd started a lot of pre-season with Daryl DK in the centre forward position, but much as night turns into day, Daryl DK's got injured, so he will miss until after the September internationals now, and Josh Maja had a little setback on his way back from injury and hasn't played an awful lot in pre-season. So, I mean, DK is 100% out. Maja is supposed to be available for Saturday, but I can't for the life of me, with the minutes he's had in pre-season, which was literally just about the last 10 minutes at Lincoln, I can't see any way that Maja starts. So Hegerber 99% sure lead the line on Saturday. And I mean, interestingly, again, referencing the pod that we've just recorded, we actually said on this week's pod that Hegerber's probably the striker that Val wishes he had when he was at Albion, because he works his socks off. He leads the press. He chases everything. He's decent in the air. He's a target in that regard. And I mean, we haven't seen a lot around his finishing ability, but it looks from what we saw in Norway that he can finish as well. So he's one to look out for. We've also got Nat Phillips at the back, but you're probably a lot more familiar of him and know what we're getting. But I think he will make us a bit more of a threat at set pieces as well, which is probably that particular side of the coin. George Campbell is the third signing we've made. We've made 3 signings, but unless, I mean, we're recording on Tuesday evening, aren't we? Being a new dad, I'm not entirely sure what day of the week it is. So that was a genuine question. I had to look down at my calendar to make sure that I was right about that. I mean, Hegam's been heavily linked with Bologna. If Hegem goes, I think Campbell comes in. But if Hegem doesn't go, then the 2 centre halves are almost certainly Phillips and Hegem. So you probably won't see Campbell unless off the bench.
Okay. So are we looking at a 4-2-3-1? Similar lineups, do we think?
Yeah. I mean, he sort of went more 2 naturalised strikers against Vallecano on Saturday. He played Grant with Hegerber, and I mean, they were more of a front 2 than anything we'd seen before that, really, in pre-season. So I'm not entirely sure. One thing you'll find, or well, maybe you won't because you won't listen to enough Ryan Mason interviews to care. But one thing we've found about Ryan Mason is he gives very little away in interviews. He kept getting asked about his style of play in early interviews when he came to the club, and he said, "I want to play winning football," which told us absolutely nothing. I mean, doesn't every manager want to play winning football? And I mean, even when it comes to injuries, we've had a couple of sort of injuries that have sort of like bobbed along for a couple of weeks, and the fans have been like, "Where's that bloke? Where's that bloke?" And eventually you get an answer, but it's not early doors. And even when Maja was missing for 2 friendlies in a row, the line that came out from Ryan Mason was, "He's felt something." I was like, "What, emotionally?" Or, the guy tells you absolutely nothing. So when I sit here and sort of and say on the opening day, I'm not completely sure what shape he'll play, because he might go with a more naturalised 10 in Price. I personally think he probably will. He might go with inverted left winger, but he might. Mikey Johnson is right-footed, but he's more likely to give you more width. I don't know which one of those 2 he will go with. He's not given us much away, to be honest, and he's played a couple of. He hasn't played drastically different systems in games, but there's been subtle tweaks, but tweaks that were significant enough to make quite a decent tactical difference in games. Okay. So, I mean, I know broadly how he will set up. I'm like I say, unless anybody leaves, I know who the back 4 and goalkeeper will be. I'm pretty confident it'll be Malumbi and Moat in the middle. Fellows, again, unless he leaves or is heavily linked to a move, therefore, and is protected for a cautionary reason, will be on the right. Hegerber will be the centre forward. I'm just not sure who will be supporting Hegerber, whether it's Grant or Price. And on that base, I'm not sure who will be on the right, whether it's Johnston or Grant.
Very good, very good. So in terms of, obviously you've said that you can't really place yourselves, but in terms of expectations for the season, do you think middle ground, middle table, talking 10th?
It feels, I mean, that's where I put us. In our 1-24s, which again, feel free to have a look at on our X account. I think I put you guys 20th, so my apologies in advance for that. But I'm just checking. No, I'm being disingenuous. 18th. I had you, and my co-host had you 17th. So. Nice. But I mean, given our experiences, we just don't expect Val to see out the season, do we? So he'll just start falling out with people in a few weeks. So, but no, I think we're hard to place. I think we're really hard to place. I've gone slap bang in the middle, but I had a conversation with an Albion fan on X who sort of said to me, if anybody told me and gave me an argument for Albion finishing anywhere from 5th to 15th, I would accept the argument, because I think there's an argument to make for any position between 5th and 15th for us. There really is.
I think that's the same for most of the Championship. Just very, very quickly, because I got myself in a bit of a pickle over the last week with some Birmingham fans were not overly happy with my sarcasm.
Oh, I upset them. I upset them yesterday. They don't like it when you suggest they're not going to walk the league. They just don't.
That's what I was just going to say. You're probably a bit closer to it than me. Birmingham, where did you have them?
7th.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, between us, tiny bit of a fish. I could have seen an argument to have put them in the top 6, but I honestly, I think some of the fuss around them and Wrexham, I think it's over the top, and I also think that it's a little bit disrespectful to this division, which I think is a pretty strong renewal of the division, and I also think that when people start, I saw a video of somebody saying today that anybody who has Birmingham outside the top 6 is crazy, and that they thought that there was an extremely strong argument for them in the top 2. In the last 2 seasons, the top 4 has largely been dominated, other than Sunderland and Ipswich gate crashing it, by teams with parachute payments. And when I say dominated, I mean if you took 10 points off any of those teams, they'd still be in the top 4.
Yeah.
And they're that far clear. I can't see beyond, which is why I don't really respect the argument of Leicester might get a points deduction, because if you took 10 points off Sheffield United, Leeds, Burnley, Southampton, Leicester in the last 2 seasons, they'd still be in the top 4. So I think that they will be in the top 4, and I just think that I just can't look beyond the top 4 being the 4 teams with parachute payments, which is obviously Ipswich, Leicester, Southampton, and Sheffield United. I think they'll be miles clear of the rest of us.
And Ipswich were an anomaly, because what people forget is a lot of the core of their team managed to then go on and play in the Premier League and are looking for moves somewhere there, because they're fantastic players. They're not League One players, not even Championship players. But anyway,
they were a team built up over it, and this is again where people draw that parallel between Ipswich and Birmingham. They were a team built up in in League One over a couple of years, and then it was the core of that team as well that went again in the Championship. Birmingham, it feels like they ripped everything up last season. Very few of the players that got them relegated played in League One, and then they've kind of ripped it up again as soon as they've gone up. Like Alfie May, who scored a lot of goals for them, has gone straight out the door. I mean, you've got to wonder how much football, given all these strikers they're trying to buy. Even Jay Stansfield is going to play for them this season. It just feels like that they almost start with a blank piece of paper in terms of the squad every season. And I just maybe I'm going to be completely wrong, and maybe I'm going to have blue noses all over my timeline, irritating the hell out of me all season, calling me out for things that I've said that have not turned out to be true, which frankly is X for you. That's their want. But I just don't see. I can see them being in touch with the playoffs, but I don't see how they're going to come and they're going to dominate this division when you've got Leicester have got pretty much the squad that got 97 points last time. Ipswich got, I think, 96. The Sheffield United got I think in the 90s last season. They've all got basically got those squads, and in the case of Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton, they've got a lot of the players that they then added when they went up to the Premier League. So they're actually stronger than the teams that dominated this league 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think if you took a starting 11 from the 4 teams you've mentioned plus Birmingham. There's not many Birmingham players getting into it. But
No.
anyway, just for what it's worth, I put it out there. I think you're going to finish above them, and that really, really upset them. So come on then. We've flirted around the subject. Valerien Ismael, talk to us.
Well, it didn't go well at the Albion, did it? Look, it's Val, isn't it? He's here for a good time, but not a long time. He burns brightly, but he burns out. And look, we've seen this at a few clubs since. He's a combustible character. I mean, his style of football is more to some fans' liking than others. We as supporters like to play a certain way, even when we've had success with more direct managers. Like when it's Gary Megson is much beloved at the Albion, Sir Gary Megson to most, but even he towards the end started getting stick because once the results dried up, like fans didn't like it. Pulis had us finishing like 9th in the Premier League, which is verging on miracle working, and he was still. Most fans still never took to him ever. No. So when you've got a manager like and even Corberan, who worked, and he wasn't direct, but he was more defensively minded. Like the fans didn't take to him. So our fans want a certain style of manager. They want that. We've always going to have ideals to the Ron Atkinson teams of the 70s, and that's what we're going to. But even more recently than that, you can go to the Ozzy Ardiles team that went through that got promoted in 92, 93, and then there was the Tony Mowbray team. Not last year, but that got promoted and won the championship. Really good attacking footballing teams. I don't think I can argue that Val's football was attacking to a certain degree. He tried to get a lot of players into the box, but it was extremely direct, and it wasn't. It was neck-ache to watch, and it wasn't a lot of fun. And also, the one thing you've got that we didn't have is we did not have a number 9 that it worked with. You've obviously got the big lad Mac Target, which I always think sounds like somebody trying to say Matt Target in a French accent. But yeah, I mean, he's obviously you've got something to hit up there. I think we had Carlin Grant up front at the time, which just wasn't going to work. But so and he wanted Daryl DK that summer. He ended up with Jordan Hugel, which is something of a phenomenal downgrade. It has to be said. So there was a bit of bad luck for Val there, but that wasn't what killed him. Where he dug his own grave was falling out with players, and I mean, he just had this inexplicable fallout with Shemi Ajayi, where he just would not play him. He fell out with Robert Snodgrass and wouldn't involve him at all. And then the one that finished him, probably from the dressing, maybe not from the fans, because Sam was never popular with the fans because he was ex-Villa, but Sam Johnston. Basically, what happened was we played. I think it was Cardiff at home, and there was an incident where we should have had a penalty in the last minute. It was right in front of me. It was one of the most blatant penalties you're ever going to see. It wasn't given. As the final whistle goes, Val storms onto the pitch, starts having a massive go at the ref, causes this one of those push and shove brawls that you see all the time. Sam Johnston gets involved, but it started because the manager gets involved with Aidan Flint, and the two of them get sent off. And then Johnston serves his 3-match ban, walks into the manager's office, as I understand it, so that Val doesn't sue me. As I understand it, may not necessarily be completely accurate, but as I understand it, he comes into the manager's office, or is called into the manager's office, and basically gets told that David Button will continue in goal, and that he's not gonna play. And Sam was a bit like, you caused the fight. Like, you caused the incident that got me sent off, and now you're punishing me for it. And not that I mean, add to that the fact that David Button is one of the worst goalkeepers I've ever seen down the Albion. It was just, and I think that killed him in the eyes of a lot of the players, because suddenly I don't think any of them knew where they stood with him, because I think whilst there was a feeling around the squad of, well, okay, as long as you work hard for him, as long as you do what he asks, as long as you play for him, you're in the team. Even if people like Shemi Ajayi, Robert Snodgrass, I don't know the reasons for bombing them out, but maybe they saw them as more justified. I think when he bombed Sam out, I think a lot of the players must have looked at it and gone, he has been one of our best players for the last 2 years, and he didn't do anything wrong other than get involved in a fracas that the manager himself caused. And he's being and I think a lot of the players kind of thought, we don't know where we stand with this bloke after this, and he didn't last much longer after that.
I mean, it seems slightly different style of football that he's been playing with us. So Gay hasn't actually played very often under him. He's been.
Well, I hope he didn't play on Saturday, because he battered us last time at the Hawthorns.
Well, certainly did. But no, he won't do. It'll be Ohashi starting. He seems to be playing more on the shoulder and trying to get the ball directly through the pitch rather than a long ball. Gay's plan B, and he is decent at that. But no, he doesn't seem to be doing that. So that's interesting. Maybe that was last season. But yeah, pre-season, it's been pretty nailed on that it's Ohashi as well. I think Gay's problem is he's not mobile enough to start the press. That's probably the issue. But anyway, in terms of Blackburn, any favourite games, any favourite memories?
I mean, look, obviously, in terms of sort of favourite games, I enjoyed the one a few years back where we absolutely destroyed you at the Hawthorns 4-1. I mean, obviously, you had a lot of mitigating circumstances around that one. I think it was towards the very end of the Thomason reign, and also you'd had James Hill recalled the day before, and then Sammy Smodics went down ill on the day of the game. So I think that was that was one of those games that you sort of remember, but I can understand the reasons why you lost it. I think the one that will always stick out to me is probably the one at Ewood Park, where which was, I think it was 3 unbelievable goals in the Premier League, where James Morrison scored a worldie. I think Tugai equalised for you. I think I'm right in saying, and then we won it in the last minute with a wonderful curler from Peter Odemwingie. 3 absolutely phenomenal goals. Of course, Alex Mowat scored a worldie as well against you when Val was manager right at the start of one of the seasons.
Was it the opening game? And I just remember
might have been.
We were way off it, and you started like a house on fire.
Well, there you go, Valerien Ismael's tactics in a nutshell. But yeah, I think that we've had a few. I think what sticks out more than good games against Blackburn is, like I say, some really there's been some really good goals in Albion Blackburn games. I think that's probably more memorable. I could be wrong, but I don't recall us having a really decisive game in a season against you, a result that really, really mattered in that moment. But there's, like I say, especially the ones at Ewood Park, the Mowat hit, the ones from Odemwingie and James Morrison. There's a few. And to be fair, I do remember the goal for you guys as well. Like I say, I'm sure it was Tugai, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think it was.
Which was an absolute thunderbolt of a hit as well. So this what sticks out more than games is individual goals in Albion Blackburn games.
Very good, very good. Right, I'm going to put you on the spot. None of us know the answer to this one, obviously. Not that you really do ever, but certainly on the first game of the season. But how do we think the game's going to go? What's your prediction?
Score prediction. I mean, look, it's opening day. I'm just going to be hopelessly optimistic. I do, as I say, look. I said before, if you're having an overs under Acker, I'd probably be looking. I'd probably be looking over 2.5 goals instead of under. So I suppose I should really stick to that. I think both teams will score because I don't necessarily expect either of us to set up to be crazy defensive. I think maybe I'll go for an Albion win just to be optimistic. But you know from what I've said before, I'm not confident about that. I really don't know what's gonna show up. So 2-1 or 3-2 to the Albion, but I'm not confident about that. And like I say, we could just as easily show up and not be at the races and to be honest, what I'm more worried about is if you start fast and we're not ready for it. We would 2-0 down against a Lincoln side that's nowhere near as good as you are. So inside 2.5 minutes. So I could easily see us being well behind quite early doors if we don't show up and are ready for this.
Oh well, that's a bonus for us because we have no idea what we're gonna see. So in terms of then getting to the game and things, Rovers fans, obviously the train is what the train is and the club coaches, but in terms of fans making their own way there, in terms of places to park, any key things to avoid, key things to go to, any little tips about little places to get a nice bit of food in the morning, dinner?
The Vine, definitely the Vine. Go to the Vine. The chicken tikka's just unbelievable.
Nice.
Great. Just be mindful that if you just be mindful if you do make the walk there. Don't kill me if especially if you're there not particularly early. If they've decided to not let away fans in, because that does happen sometimes. I've been in there and it's been a mixed environment, but other times. So, I mean, it might, if you're thinking of taking up my recommendation, it might be worth a quick call into them to just see if they're letting away fans in, or otherwise zip your coat up and keep your head down, and you might get in as well. But that's always good. The Sportsman does some good curries as well. If they're letting away fans in, again, worth a call into them. The big bit of sort of like driving news is that the road at the top of the Birmingham road that joins onto it, Forge Lane, it remains shut, and there's quite a lot of that's going to basically take out quite a lot of parking, because a lot of there's a load of sort of businesses up there that and side streets that do parking, and it's gonna take all of that away. So first of all, your sat nav shouldn't. If you're coming from Blackburn, it should take you up the M6 and to the M5 junction. So you shouldn't go anywhere near it. But if it does, for whatever reason, take you that way, if you're coming from somewhere weird and wonderful, don't go up Forge Lane if your sat nav's going to take you that way. But also be mindful of the fact that parking is going to be a lot busier around the ground, because we've had quite a lot of parking spaces knocked out by that. The parking on the Birmingham Road is expensive. It's probably going to cost you a tenner, but it's probably your easiest way. There's the sort of like factories and food out and sort of food factories and everything down there that do parking. It'll cost you a tenner, but it'll probably be your easiest way back onto the motorway for sort of getting away at the end.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think I put near an industrial estate last time and got absolute shocker trying to get away, but it was, yeah, risky noise sometimes.
It's not going to be good because that there's not going to be any perfect answer, because that road being closed is going to bottleneck all the traffic into one area. So it's going to be shut for the first couple of games. So the first few games, the Hawthorns are going to be pretty horrible to get away from. Unfortunately, it is what it is.
But as long as you know that, you know what you're getting into, don't you? And you just plan accordingly. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Public transport, if you can, would be my suggestion. If you can avoid driving, it particularly for that game, it probably is worthwhile.
Right. Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And just remind everyone where they can find you and where we can come and ask you questions about share our love affair for Valerien Ismael.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I say, Albion Analysis, wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, all those sorts of places. And then if you want to follow us on X, at Albion Analysis or at CJ Hall 83. As I say, we have just put our championship preview out literally today as a podcast. So please give it a listen. Feel free to tweet us if you don't agree with anything. But it's not. There's a little bit about Albion and how our season will go in there, but 90% of that pod is a general championship preview. So hopefully it'll be of interest to people.
Great stuff. Well, we'll make sure we link everything up in the when we get this out, and then we will give everyone give him a like and a follow. And if he's right about the score, fair enough. If he's not, let him know. Anyway, but thank you, Chris, and I hope you have a nice long sleep this evening. Sounds like it might not be on the cards, but I've
burnt my pass now, mate. The missus gets sleep, and I'm gonna, after this, I'm gonna have to clear up the garden, and I'm gonna have to do babysitting duties so that she gets some time to herself. So oversleeping by half an hour has probably taken up all the credit that was in my bank account.
Well, we'll get this podcast out, and you can watch that back anyway.
There we go. There we go.
Thank you very much, everyone. Remember to like and subscribe, and do give Chris and the Albion Analysis a follow, and we will see you next time.